Everyone, welcome to the 2022 Global Women's Breakfast. Mary, I'm thrilled to partner with you again to launch this amazing event.
Hello, Laura. We have the great honor to greet everyone and to welcome the celebration of the. I can picture scientists all around the world leaping out of bed this morning to meet with their friends and colleagues.
Wonderful thing about the breakfast, Mary, is the warm feeling of belonging and shared purpose.
Of building professional networks.
You know, amazingly, both of our journeys started with a fascination with chemistry and water. Inspired by my first environmental professor, I got to travel on research ships on the world's largest lakes, and I met scientists from different countries who became collaborators.
And in my case, I would never have imagined as an undergraduate history in the UK that I would move to do postdoctoral research at Barrick Era. But it was while attending regional meetings in Asia that I first became science and how young people develop into well-rounded scientists.
Where I came to understand the enormous value of networking at an international forum.
Absolutely. EPAT meeting in Puerto Rico. Now watch some of the wonderfully creative groups sharing what this means to them.
Unity in diversity. Yay! Welcome to GWB. Accepted. Opportunities.
मैम को बोला था गुड आफ्टरनून गुड आफ्टरनून सर
सर नमस्कार सर
Namaskar.
सर
Has chief guest joined?
यस सर
Namaskar, sir. I am the panelist.
गुड आफ्टरनून मैम
Okay, good afternoon.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
वेलकम मैडम
Good afternoon. I am
Good
from
afternoon.
Jamia Islamia.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Welcome to virtual platform.
मैडम सर इज आवर ऑनरेबल वाइस चांसलर सर
नमस्ते
Chief guest को remind कर दी.
फोन से लगा रहे हैं फोन से जी सर
गुड
कितना टाइम लगेगा? बात हो गई?
हॅलो
सर,
तेच
वो-
आहे, तुम्ही जॉईन व्हा. मी
हाँ
जॉईन
जी।
झाले, मला मिळालं. अरे देवा. हा, आणि उपिंदर धार ते पण ते व्हाईस चान्सलर आहे. चला.
करीना।
Good morning, everyone.
येईल.
Welcome to the 2022 IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast. Mary, I'm thrilled to partner with you again to launch this amazing event.
Hello, Laura. Together, and to welcome them to this year's celebration of the achievements of women in science. I can picture scientists all around the world out of bed this morning to meet with their friends and colleagues.
The wonderful thing about the breakfast, Mary, is the warm feeling of belonging with the more than 300 groups around the world.
You and I both have a great for the critical importance of building professional networks.
You know, amazingly, both of our journeys started with water. Inspired by my first environmental chemistry professor, I got to travel on the world's largest lakes, and I met scientists from different countries who became mentors and collaborators.
And in my case, I would never have imagined as an undergraduate studying chemistry in the UK that I would move to do postdoctoral research underwater on the Great Barrier. But it was while attending regional meetings in Asia that I first became inquisitive about how other communities do their science, develop into well-rounded scientists.
For me, it was a conference where I came to enormous value of networking at an international forum.
Absolutely. We met at an IUPAC meeting in Puerto Rico. Now watch some of the wonderfully creative groups sharing what this year's breakfast means to them.
In diversity. Welcome to GWB. Accepting. Equitable.
Yes, Ashutosh. Yeah, now Nita, what is the update?
सर ज्वाइन कर रही हैं मैडम, उनको लिंक फिर से भेज दीजिए, वो बोली मुझे फिर से भेज, हमने अभी जस्ट व्हाट्सएप की है सर।
क्या कनेक्टिविटी की प्रॉब्लम है, क्या है, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम?
सर वो ट्राई कर रही हैं, भेजिए उस फिर दूसरी बार लिंक भेजिए जस्ट अभी सर। हाँ। अरे
Good afternoon, sir.
गुड आफ्टरनून।
Good
Hi,
afternoon. I have joined Smita. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
जी नमस्कार, डॉक्टर दार हियर।
Namaskar, Dr. Saab. Namaskar.
नमस्कार।
Thank you
कैसे
so much for remembering me.
हैं? नहीं थैंक्स किस बात का।
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I hope the connectivity doesn't,
टेक्नोलॉजी
break
डज
us.
नॉट ऑलवेज कोऑपरेट।
It doesn't, sir. It's my third meeting today and it is playing havoc. Really. So let's start.
हियर वी आर हैप्पी।
Thank you,
अस्मिता,
sir.
यू कैन स्टार्ट नाउ।
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Dr. Upender Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, our esteemed chief guest of the day, Professor Shushma Yadav, former Vice Chancellor, Bhagat Phool Singh Vishwavidyalaya, Sonipat, Dr. Sunita Mahajan, Chairperson, Indian Women Scientist Association, and for Division of Barrick, Professor Dr. Devan S Ravath, Dean Examination, University of Delhi, Dr. Niyati Bhattacharya, ex-chairperson of Board of Trustees of Indian Women Scientist Association, Professor Simi Farhad Bashir, Dean Political Sciences, JMI, Dr. Santosh Dhar, Dean FDSR, SVV, Dr. Ken Guru Prasad, Director SVIS SVV, Indore, Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Chemistry Department, all the dignitaries, HODs, faculty members, and dear students. Sunita Sharma, Coordinator, Global Women's Breakfast 22, will welcome you all on behalf of Shri Vaishnav Vidyalaya to GWB 20 event, the role of women in scientific discovery in India from ancient to modern era. Science and gender equality are both vital for the achievement of the agreed goal, including the data for sustainable development. Over the past decades, the global community has made a lot of efforts in inspiring and engaging women and girls in science. This education gives us an understanding of the world around us as an opportunity to use that knowledge wisely. So light, and divinity. It not only dispels darkness, but also illuminates our souls. Before beginning the event, let us take the blessing of Goddess Saraswati, the Goddess of Knowledge. I request the technical team to kindly play Saraswati Vandana.
सद्गमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया
श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
Thank you, sir. Now I request the technical team to virtual welcome up Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Sushma Yadav. Now I request Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Convener, Breakfast 2022, Chemistry, SVIS SVV Indore, some on the event. Please, sir.
Thanks, madam. Good noon. Namaskar to all dignitaries. Today's chief guest, Professor, Honorable Member of University Grant, Bhagat Phul Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Sonipat, Dr. Upender Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Vaishnav Vidya Vishwavidyalaya, eminent speakers of the program, respected Dean Madam, Faculty of Doctoral Studies, guests, all HOIs, coordinators, HODs, and my dear students. I am glad to share that the International Chemistry, IUPAC, is providing a platform for exchange of ideas through meaningful interactions. In 2011, Global Women Trust was created to provide women chemists in the year of chemistry and to the centenary of awarding of Nobel Prize to Marie Curie in chemistry. 2019, Women's Breakfast series was relaunched as an event to celebrate the centenary of founding of IUPAC and the International Year of the Periodic Table. The journey continued with the aim to inspire young generations to pursue career in science. This year, the theme of this global networking event is Empowering Diversity in Science. And today, we are here regardless of gender identity, the same. An educational environment, deep intellectual, moral, spiritual stimulation, thereby nurturing leadership. Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, along with Association of Chemistry Teachers, is organizing this event jointly. The plenary sessions will be chaired by Dr. Sunita Mahajan. The eminent speakers of the chair are Dr. S. Devan, Dr. Niyati Bhattacharya, Professor Simi Farhat Basir, and the valedictory session, Dr. Santosh Dhar Madam, with her concluding remarks. Thanks, Madam.
Now I request Dr. Upender Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Chief guest on this special occasion, Professor Sushma Ji Yadav, our Dr. Sunita Ji Mahajan, Dr. G. Ravath, Dr. Niyati Bhattacharya Ji, Dr. Simi Farat Bashir Ji, Dr. Santosh Dar, Dr. Brijesh Pari, President, Association of Chemistry Teachers, all women attending this webinar. This special seminar that we are organizing second time in association with, in collaboration with the Association of Chemistry Teachers. The contributions made by women in most of the cases have gone unnoticed, not recognized. Attempts have been made to highlight the contributions made by women scientists, particularly if we talk about the science domain. An attempt was made in 2008. Professor Rohini Godbole of Indian Institute of Science did a book named Lilavati's Daughters, highlighting the contributions made by women since ancient times till date, till 2018. Preferred to call it Lilavati's Daughters because Lilavati was the wife of Bhaskaracharya, great mathematician. Bhaskaracharya too had published his main treatise, main work, in the name of his daughter, Lilavati, and scholar. If we take specifically, if we restrict ourselves to science, in recent past, there are instances where number has increased, number of women scientists has increased, though even today, country, it is male dominated area. But broken the glass ceiling and very significant contributions. During this webinar, you will be hearing many who have done great work in the past, but I would prefer to, since I don't want to be repetitive, since all other names will be coming and you will be sharing with each other, I would like attention to the contemporaries, those who are right now here with us in this world and contributing, still making contribution. Say, for example, Tessie Thomas. Tessie Thomas, known as the Missile Woman of India, is the Director General of Aeronautical Systems and the former project director of Agni 4 missile in Defense Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO. She is the first woman She has a doctorate in and has worked in the field for 3 decades. She is 57 years old now, so still working. Trajectory simulation and mission design at the DRDO. She designed the guidance systems, which is used in Agni missiles, in all Agni missiles. She was conferred with Agni Self-Reliance Award in 2001. Fellowships and honorary, still contributing. Similarly, Rita, Chandrayaan-2 mission. Rita Karidal was feted for in helming one of India's ambitious lunar projects. She was responsible for detailing and the execution of the craft's onward system that independently operated the functions in space and responded appropriately to manifest it. Dubbed as the of India, it is on record. Dubbed as Rocket Woman of India, Ritu joined ISRO and was also the director to India's Mars orbiter mission, that is Mangalyaan. An aerospace engineer, she was born and raised in a middle-class family. She has BSc in physics, ME in aerospace engineering from the Indian Institute of 2007. She also received Young Scientist Award from APJ Abdul Kalam, then President of India. Another name is Muthaya Vanita. Muthaya Vanita is the project director of Chandrayaan-2. She is the first woman to lead the interplanetary mission at ISRO. She was promoted from associate director as project director of the mission and hails from Chennai and is an electronics system engineer from the College of Engineering. There are many other names, like say Gagandeep Kang. She is a virologist and scientist, is known for her interdisciplinary research in transmission, the development and prevention of enteric infections in children in India. More important that I want to emphasize here, that they are working still active, but in many examples who have gone abroad and made contributions there. But I mentioned these who are working in India, in the country itself. She has been elected as a fellow of the Royal Society, the first Indian woman scientist to receive this. The oldest scientific institute in the world and is dedicated to promoting excellence in science. Another name is the polar woman of ISRO. First woman scientist to spend more than a year in the icy landscape of Antarctica. The 56-year-old had never experienced snowfall. Why I'm mentioning age? So that they are still working, still active. She was selected earlier for the mission in November 2006. She was part of the 23-member team that went on an expedition to Bharati station in Antarctica. 403 days at this post continent, maintaining ISRO's ground. Similarly, another name is Ramakrishnan. Kamakshi is on board NASA's New Horizon mission, which is probing Pluto. It is NASA's farthest space mission, and algorithm and the chip that is responsible for bringing information from Pluto. Who planet was being questioned. Few years back, existence question. So she's involved in this project. The chip on board the space collects signals and sends them back to the space station, which is 3 billion miles away. So these are a few names of women scientists who are still contributing. Not undermining work of contributed earlier. I have not mentioned those names deliberately because during the deliberations in these next 2 years, you will be hearing those names because they are all well-known names that have contributed a lot. So we need to draw inspiration in women scientists. So if we go by the statistics now, more women, more girls are coming to science domain. But engineering, if we take engineering alone, even today, many girls are not there in core branches of engineering. Number of girls is increasing in computer science engineering, CSE. We need to encourage the girls of the country, daughters, to these domains, science and technology domain, and facilitate their development, in turn contribution to society. Here in our university, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith, importance of this subject, we have of showcasing the work of scientists, women scientists going on, and hopefully by the book will be released, which we are naming after Arundhati. Although we have not finalized the title yet, maybe Arundhati's daughters, that we will see. But I would request all of you, those who have not read the book Lilavati's Daughters by Professor Dr. Rohini Godbole of Indian Institute of Science, to it. It's a very interesting contribution, and the work done by women scientists in the country. So with these words, I would like to welcome all. I would like to welcome, I'm sure it is going to be a great session and happy learning for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Ken Guru Prasad, Director, Sri Vaishnav, to address the gathering, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief guest, Sushma Yadav, Bhagat Puls, Sonipat, and distinguished speakers, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Rupender Dar, other dignitaries. As it has already been mentioned, that women's contribution to science has many times in terms of their great participation in the advancement of, and there are many Indian women who have contributed to the advancement of science. Many of the speakers recounting those contributions, and also the Vice Chancellor has mentioned about the current women scientists who are working in this field. That especially in basic sciences, over the years, we are and women scientists coming contributing in a big way. If I look to my own immediate vicinity at Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Vaishnav Science is one of the constituent in this university, and I have to this fact that out of staff Vaishnav Institute of Women, so we already have a dominance of women scientists in science academics in our own university, which is a very young university. Maybe the participation of women in sciences may be less, except for computer science. But in basic sciences, definitely meritorious students coming out and joining research in science, which is a very good sign for science. And institutes reflect this of women when it comes to including our own university. I was then looking to my own research students for the last 3 decades, and found that since I work in biological sciences, and the first women scientists in India were from biological sciences. The first person to get Padma Shri, Dr. Janaki Ammal, in 1977, was director of Botanical Survey of India and worked in botany. The person who got the PhD award, Dr. Asmita Chatterjee, also worked on the chemistry of plants, the biochemical aspects of the plants. There is a very close relationship somehow between the biological science for a long time now, because their contributions, especially in India, have been very significant in the area of biological science. So I was looking to my own laboratory and found that out of 28 students who completed their PhD working in my laboratory, 18 of them are women and 10 were only men. So almost double the number of men who worked for their PhD. But probably under our socio-economic condition, the girls are coming and working in science up to PhD, and a few of them go beyond. But how many of them continue in their career as a scientist is a question probably we need to address. That depends more on the socio-economic condition of the country. And that is where I hope I feel women scientists, academic institute, laboratories. So I welcome the guests to this, and we look forward to experts on the contribution of women scientists. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for this enriching address and the valuable information. I would like Chancellor, Bhagat Phool Singh Mehla Vishwavidyalaya. Professor Shushma Yadav is of University Grant Commission, New Delhi. As Vice Chancellor, Bhagat Vishwavidyalaya, Sonipat. Member of India, Pro Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Professor of Public Policy and Governance at Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. Chair Professor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar at IIPS. Chairperson, Governing Body, Colleges of Vocational Studies, University of Delhi. Founder President of National Social Science Association, RSVP now Raj Vigyan Parishad. President of Indian Political Science Association, Coordinate India International Political Science Association, Research Committee on Rethinking Political Development. Professor Shushma Yadav, on CS for the 12th Plan Approach paper. Ministry of Social and Empowerment, Government of India, member of the governing body, Institute New Delhi, member, peer team, National Assessment and Accreditation Council, Bangalore, a topper of Delhi University. Professor Sushma Yadav has published more than 15 books and several research papers in national and international journals. She has played significant role in planning, implementation, and policies and academic activities as Chancellor's nominee, Visitors nominee, and member of Finance Committee, Academic Council, and Executive Council of a number of central and state universities. Yadav is recipient of a number of prestigious awards like Pride of the Nation 2019, Women of the Year 2019 award, 2015, Ambassador of Peace Award 2015, Mahatma Jyotiba Savitribai Phule Ratna Award 2014, Kasturba Award 2008, 2006. She has a number of countries like China, USA, Germany, Spain, Peru, Chile, Nepal, and Bangladesh for academic assignment. May I now request you, ma'am, to address the grade. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Asmita Sharma. Dear Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Ashutosh Shukla ji, Dr. Asmita Sharma ji, the eminent speakers in today's inaugural session, and the eminent women scientists who have joined this very, very important and I would say momentary function or event which has been coordinated by Dr. Asmita Sharma, and I'm sure the Honorable Vice Chancellor and his encouragement and support is behind this. I'm very happy to be part of this, and I thank the university and Honorable Vice Chancellor and of course Dr. Asmita Sharma as well to make me part of this. When she contacted me, I asked her, I'm not a scientist, I'm only a political scientist. And politics is anything but science, you know, because predicting about human beings is very, very difficult. I really asked her, how did my name come to your mind? And she said, no, our Honorable Vice Chancellor has given me. I'm really thankful, Professor Dhar, for giving this opportunity, because with this opportunity and with this assignment that you had given me, I tried to know about women scientists a bit more, surely, because I wouldn't have spoken otherwise. I also understand that you are organizing this event or this activity as part of your association with International Union of Pure and Applied Science, USA, under Global Women's Breakfast event. I was really interested. I found it very interesting or intriguing. There is a Global Women's Breakfast event. So I would say for the women scientists or women in science, it is in fact a moment of breakfast only. You have started or embarked on the journey. I'm sure the lunches and dinners wait for you, which would be more wholesome than the breakfast that you are starting with. But I must compliment Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, all the eminent chemists who have joined this event here. Asmita herself is a chemist, I would say. And the women in chemistry, I have just heard, have been really much more in the forefront. The theme of this year's Global Women's Breakfast event, I'm happy to note, is empowering diversity in science. And empowering diversity in science here means you are looking at the role of women in scientific discoveries in India from ancient to modern era. And I really compliment you for this, because we really do not know much. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Lilavati is the daughter of Bhaskara ji. And Bhaskara, the eminent mathematician and the eminent great learned person of that time, knew about her future, calculated her future, knew what is going to happen, and tried to stop it, but still could not stop it, which means there's something beyond your calculations as well. But that tragedy brought us a very great woman mathematician in terms of Lilavati. I'm happy that there is a book like Lilavati's Daughters. There is also an award from last year onwards, with which I've been associated by the AICTE, which is Lilavati Award for all those who are working for women empowerment. I have given a suggestion that it should be more towards women mathematicians and women scientists, because that would encourage more women into this area. But I am also happy to take note of another publication, which has just come from the Department of Science and Technology, DST. One good friend from there shared it with me, which is a resource book on profiles of Indian women scientists. And I think that will be a great source of information and great source of confidence also among the women scientists. It has the names of Rohini Godbalaji, Pratibha Jolly, Ranjana Agarwal, Subodh Mohanty, Sanjay Mishra, and Aditi Joshi. They are all from the group and committee which is associated with encouraging women into sciences and various disciplines of sciences, and in fact supporting them also. I'm part of a committee which also is trying to spread awareness among women so that they become part of the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, as they call it, STEM. I'm sure you must be more aware of it than me, because you belong to the disciplines which are referred here. But it's really heartening to note that the world is witnessing winds of change for women scientists, and India is also not lagging behind. While in 2015, the United Nations resolved to celebrate 11th February as International Day for Women and Girls in Science, and it also invigorated the global mission for justice and equality in 2020. I'm sure you all must have been part of it. India celebrated National Science Day with Women in Science as the focal theme. And much more than this, I would say a more enthralling announcement came when 11 chairs were established in the names of women scientists from India at institutions across the country. Such reverence surely was long due, but it is most deserved also. Now, this year, India is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I'm happy to see that DST has not called it Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. It has called it Swatantrata Ka Amrit Mahotsav, SWAM. And I really prefer this name much more, as a Jan Utsav, that is a people's festival. The spirit of Jan Bhagidari dedicated to its citizens who have contributed to India becoming a more empowered nation and a more scientifically oriented nation also. Jan Bhagidari, as you all know, means equal participation and equal contribution of the people. People means women, men, and all others. Now we're moving to third gender also. I think that's another battle which will be fought and won with time. But women, men, and others have to contribute to nation building through STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine, because they are considered to be the prime engines for the national growth and for creating the self-reliant India, which is a dream for all of us. And our Honorable Prime Minister talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat, which remains a destination or a goal for all those who believe in India's spirit, all those who believe in India's destiny, which is going to be written soon enough. The drivers of the STEM engine are both women and men. Naturally, only one cannot carry it forward or cannot really take it to its logical conclusion. However, we lag behind, or rather remain oblivious in applauding the role of women researchers, because they work as researchers first. They are mostly perceived as followers, colleagues, and not as the pathfinders and leaders and scientists and engineers who've made names. I'm very happy. All my preceding speakers have reminded us that there are many women who are known for their torch-bearing or path-breaking researches and discoveries in the fields of science. Not long ago, we were all believing that women do not really fare well in science because they are emotional by nature, and science is something which is more logical and more rational. Women have to break that myth or that notion, which is outcome of socio-cultural conditioning and has a deeply embedded meaning for women. So as a part of the Swatantrata Ka Amrit Mahotsav activities, this resource book, which I was referring to just now, came out as an instrument to project the accurate picture and the horizon, to present a compilation of biographies showcasing stellar accomplishments of Indian women researchers from pre-independence to present. And these women, or this resource book, brings out stories which demonstrates that they have been partners in building and strengthening the scientific enterprise of 21st century India, which must be strengthened by events like this, which you are organizing today. If one tries to map successful women researchers from pre to post-independence era, the outcome would not be a very systematic story or systematic history, but a patchy, sparingly postulated timeline. However, the patches surely bask in their own glory, each one representing a woman who dared to dream of not only getting educated, not only going into research, but also showcasing professionalism and leadership in science. For example, E.K. Janaki Amal, who reorganized the Botanical Survey of India; Rajeshwari Chatterjee, who became the first woman faculty at IISc; and Asima Chatterjee, the first woman to be awarded the DSc degree of any Indian university. I will not take all the names, but we must note that in contrast, the timeline for the first 2 decades of this millennium appears much more populated, much more organized, with many young women scientists leading institutions and winning the major science awards in India. Aditi Sende, I'm sure you know them better than me, a computation physicist; Jyotirmay Dash, an organic chemist who works on developing anti-cancer therapeutics and was awarded the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize very recently in 2019 and 20 respectively. The book that comes out with details about such women is a real good way to showcase the professional journeys of these women with compelling narratives of how the workplace and space for women got constructed and how they had evolved over the last 75 years. I wish and request the event organizers here and the university under the able leadership of Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Dhar to organize discussions on books like this, so that these journeys come to all those who can be inspired and they can really move forward and faster in the coming years to come. Our young girls need to know about pre-independence status of women, education, their involvement in various kinds of academic activities and research activities, to be able to connect the past, appreciate our present, and create the best for the future. And another exciting example is Bethune College in Kolkata that came up in the late 19th century and has produced the youngest Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize winner, the mathematician Nina Gupta, who solved the Zariski cancellation problem. And of course, many more such stories will be coming out once you look at such anthologies which are coming up. Because it brings together and weaves together several intertwining threads, such as modernization of education, revival of women education, and the rise of colonial science during the late 19th century. We may remember Anandibai Joshi, the first female to receive training in Western medicine abroad. And also, we must recollect and recognize and acknowledge the Herculean efforts of the first woman teacher, now recognized as Jyotiba Phule, who started a women's movement. And I'm sure there are many scientists who also come out of such events. Since there are very many eminent scientists waiting, I won't take much time, but I must here also remember the clinical scientists like Soumya Swaminathan, who have stepped up to the position of DDG, Deputy Director General at World Health Organization in 2017, and Gagandeep Kang, which Prasadar also mentioned, to be the first woman to be elected to the Royal Society in 2019. It is very critical to provide our millennium girls a glimpse of the professional lives of such women scientists born out of the Indian soil, and how they met challenges, how they conquered fears and doubts that came out of the socio-cultural conditioning, and how they got interested in outstanding discoveries and outstanding research. Therefore, I would say that the Global Women Breakfast and an event like the one you are organizing at Sri Vaishnav Vishwavidyalaya, Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, would really bring out hope among the young girls, and also the courage which is required to move into the territory of science. They must be inspired to dream. They must be encouraged to move forward. And they must also be peer tutored or, given a path where they can combine both the very, very important dimensions of their life, the career and the family, which comes almost at the same time and requires the same dedication, the same sacrifice, the same time. But I'm sure if they are supported by the society, by their families, and by their peer group, they will do wonders. I wish in the years to come, we'll have many more eminent scientists coming out of various laboratories and scientific organizations of India, and we will be there to celebrate their success. Once again, let me compliment the Department of Chemistry, all the eminent chemists who are there, and Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya for organizing this event and bringing you all together and making me a part of this very, very historic event where you celebrate women's achievements and where you also open the path to the future where we'll have more women discoveries, more women researchers, and more women scientists coming out with their successful trajectories and successful life stories. I wish all of them success, and thank you, Asmita, for almost bullying me into this event. I'm so happy to be part of this, and I really thank your university, your department, and the entire team which has worked for this event. I'm sure it is a successful event, but I do wish it is even more successful in years to come. Thank you very much, and please accept my compliments, congratulations, and all the very best wishes. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am, much for your kind word of wisdom. It was a great pleasure for all of us to listen to you. Thank you once again, ma'am. Now, I would like to hand over the session, Ms. Supriya, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. And I'll take leave now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you, madam.
And thank you, Prasadar. Thank you very much. You made me learn science. Part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A warm good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of Department of Chemistry, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya and Association of Chemistry Teachers, I, Supriya Vyas, feel privileged to welcome you all to the international webinar on topic Role of Women in Scientific Discoveries in India from Ancient to Modern Era, comprised Women's Breakfast 2022. I am glad to announce that the session will be chaired by Dr. Sunita Mahajan, Chairperson, Board of Trustees, Indian Women Scientists Association, and former head. The eminent speakers of the session are Dr. Devan S Ravath, Professor, Department of Chemistry, University of Delhi, Dr. Niyati Bhattacharya, ex-Chairperson of Board of Trustees of Indian Women Scientists Association, Professor Simi Farhad Basir, ma'am, Dean, Faculty of Natural Sciences, JMI University, New Delhi. We are very pleased to be able to welcome you for being here with us today. The Upadhyay, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, SCCC. Before proceeding further, I would like to introduce a chairperson, Dr. Sunita M. Mahajan. Bombay University, after working in the computer field for 27 years in computer technology from SNDT Women's University in 1997. In 1969, she joined Baba Atomic Research Center as scientific officer after completing 1-year training course in physics. Since then, she had been working in computer division as software manager, looking after software maintenance for the computer systems in the computer division. In 1972, she was sent to USSR for software training on the Russian computer BESM-6. She on the software maintenance and training for training of BESM-6 Prime 450 and NOS data systems, for which she was trained in Norway in 1982. Her major contribution is in the field of parallel processing. In 1990, Barrick developed Anupam 680, supercomputer based on the parallel processing technology. She was the group leader parallel processing group in. She is quite active in the field of computer. She has taught parallel processing, neural network, distributed computing. Book on distributed processing, which was the textbook for Mumbai University and Gujarat University. She has written about 50 technical papers, guided 20 MPhil students and 10 PhD students. Indian Women Scientists Association in 1970s, and since then has worked in many capacities as treasurer, vice president. Then she became a member of Board of Trustees and currently is the chairperson of Board of Trustees. She is also actively involved with Women Graduates Union. Since last 2 years, she is a member of managing committee of Women Graduates Union. Now, I would like to hand over the procedure to our respected chairperson, Dr. Sunita Mahajan. Ma'am, please start the session.
Thank you, Madam Vyas, for such a nice introduction. You could have cut it short, actually. So only mean that I worked in BRC and now I'm working in IRSA. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Upinder Da, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, for giving me this opportunity, unique opportunity of participating in such a glorious function where everybody is talking about women and the scientific discoveries in India, and it's a international webinar. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank Dr. Asmita Sharma for inviting me and just keeping in contact. She is such active person, and she is in always helping me finding out whatever I wanted. So thank you, madam. Dr. Santosh Dhar and all other dignitaries. It is a good afternoon for all of you from me. The topic of panel discussion is very interesting, covering a wide span from ancient era to modern era. It will be indeed interesting to trace the course of role of women in this period. Actually, all the speakers before me, Honorable Vice Chancellor and our chief guest have made my work very easy. So because they covered the contemporary people, Tessie Thomas and Dr. Rohini Godbole. But I would like to go a little bit in ancient era also, what happened and why there were no women in the scientific discoveries there. But before that, I take the liberty of introducing my association. Since you are all talking about women scientists, I thought let me introduce my Indian Women Scientists Association. So it is a non-government, non-profit social organization of almost 50 years old. In 1973, 12 women scientists of repute felt very strongly that it is necessary to encourage young women to spread scientific culture and scientific temper in the society and help them in their careers too. To some extent, the founder members came forward to start IVSA and registered it. Since then, we are working with it. It's a national body with headquarters at Vashi, Navi Mumbai and 11 branches all over India. We have built a 160-seated hostel for working women and have daycare center. We hold conferences, seminars, study tours. We have a learning garden, a library, healthcare unit, computer center, elementary science lab. And our main objective is taking science to masses to promote accomplishments in science and technology among women, to spread scientific temper in society, to establish the hostel, because whenever women scientists come to a new city, they have to have a safe place to stay. So we decided to build a hostel for 160 beds and with great boarding lodging facilities. And at the same time, our IVSA tries to be a representative body of Indian women working in natural and physical sciences and also in applied sciences like, as sir said, engineering and medicine. Now let us see how the role of women in scientific discoveries changed from being supporting person in ancient times to an independent, confident woman of modern times. In Vedic times, women were allowed to study various shastras and they could have debates at various points. Two prominent female names are there, Gargi and Maitreyi, but they were not scientists. There were no scientific discoveries attached to them. The first scientist is Rishi Kanad, who worked in atomic physics, but there are no woman attached to his name. Then, of course, comes the name of Lilavati. She, as far where I read, she was the widowed daughter of Bhaskaracharya. Bhaskaracharya was the great mathematician and astrologer in 12th century who discovered zero and infinity. He wrote a book called Siddhanta Shiromani in 4 parts. The first part is the Lilavati, named after his daughter. Actually, it is partly work of Lilavati that is included in this book. Bhaskaracharya used to give mathematical problems to Lilavati. She would solve it and include it in the book. The discovery of mathematical concept of fractions goes to Lilavati. She discovered it. So it was all included and Bhaskaracharya gave her name. She was an astrologer and mathematician. I find she is the first one who participated in the scientific discovery. In the later period, in the Middle Ages, there were a lot of invasions from northern border and western border. So there was no scientific discovery as such. The whole thing was materially unstable. Men and women were busy saving themselves. Women went into burqa and all that because they had to be protected. And great universities like Nalanda shifted to other places like Kashmir, Tibet, etc. I won't take the only one name I would like to say is that Devi Ahilya Bai, who is a well-known ruler in 19th century. She was an excellent administrator and she managed her role very well. She protected people in her Malwa kingdom, and so much so that she is still remembered as a god there. With the advent of British rules, things became slightly more safe. Women were sparingly allowed to go out and study. In the late 19th and 20th century, medicine was the place where women turned to, because it was found that women were reluctant to be treated by men for their illnesses. So the enterprising and intelligent women who were there, who said, let me study medicine because that will be useful for all women. But they had to cross many hurdles, societal taboo being a major one. Still, women showed great dedication to their studies. Again, here I will mention three names. Dr. Kadambini Ganguly in 1883 became the first qualified lady doctor, but she faced a lot of resistance from her male colleague. You know, her professor failed her in medicine because he didn't want a girl to pass in the medicine. So she couldn't get a degree. Then another one was Anandibai Joshi, the first lady doctor who went to USA, braved everything, braved the winter weather and all, but completed her studies. Her husband helped her quite a lot, moral support. And after that, she came back to India, but because of that weather conditions that she faced there, her health gave way and she could not practice. In late 19th century, Dr. Rakhmabai Raut, she was the first one who practiced in Surat. She went on, she had a child marriage, but didn't stay with her husband because he was 11 years older than her. And she was so young that after becoming a doctor, she didn't want to go and stay with the husband. So she fought a case in the court, she won it, and then went to Surat to practice in medicine. There was no discovery, but this was a great achievement that women ventured into the medicines. In 20th century, things improved. Women studied subjects like botany, physics, etc. But still there was a lot of stigma and societal restrictions to women's study. Those women who did complete their studies and finished and participated in scientific discoveries, they had the support of some male members, either their father or their husband or some other well-wisher. Dr. Vice Chancellor, I would like to say here that I would like to talk about women who were working in 20th century, not the contemporary one, because many of you may not know about them. We being at IVSA, we know more intimately about. I would like to introduce few women scientists pioneering the scientific research in India. There is no time to talk about their individual lives, but even then, they dedicated their lives to science and their work profiles are really astounding. Three of them, Dr. Kamal Randive, Dr. Sudha Padhe, and Dr. Shantu Gurnani, are founder members of our association. 12 women scientists came forward and 3 are among them. Dr. Kamal Randive, a pioneer in cancer research, recipient of Padma Bhushan Award and many other awards to her credit, was born in Pune in a highly educated family. Her father encouraged her in her studies and wanted her to become a doctor. But she didn't want that. She went on to become a biologist and joined Cancer Research Institute. People in her life who inspired her were her father, Professor Samarth, husband, Mr. Jai Singh Randive, and her mentor, Dr. V.R. Khanolkar, who was the founder director of Cancer Research Institute. Her awards and recognitions are in many. She pioneered the first tissue culture laboratory in ICRC in 1960. In 1964, she became the first recipient of Silver Jubilee Research Award in ICMR. And also same year, she received G.J. Vattumal Foundation Prize in Microbiology. Then she went abroad to complete her postdoc and came back. And later in 1982, She won the prestigious Padma Bhushan for her work in medicine. In addition, her contributions towards rural health, training Anganwadi teachers in remote tribal areas to prevent diseases, was when she started working with IVSA. Dr. Shantu Gurnani's life is an example of hardship, dedication, unstinted devotion to science. She was born in pre-partition India in 1923 in Karachi. Her studies were discontinued after primary education because her father thought that for girls it is sufficient to study up to 4th standard. But she couldn't let it go. She learned all the housekeeping, stitching, embroidering, but her attention was toward the scientific discoveries going on in Europe and America. Those were the days when all fundamental particles were invented, all spectroscopic inventions were there, everything exciting was happening in Europe and America. After partition, she and her siblings came to Mumbai and she struggled hard for supporting herself and at the same time continuing her education. Then she got many scholarships, fellowships, and in 1955 went to University of Illinois for her PhD. On her return, she joined Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Biochemistry Department as scientific officer, and one of her scientific discoveries includes finding the existence of vitamin B12 in mammalian tissues in coenzyme form. She worked on egg white lysozymes, went abroad for her postdoctoral, and carried her work forward in the years in 1970. Around that time, she wanted to spread the scientific culture among women scientists. So just see how the role of women changed. Here, they were studying, but at the same time, they wanted to make other women independent to study science. She greatly pushed forward with Dr. Randive, Dr. Padhe, and other scientists to form IVSA. After which is completing 50 years in 2023, I would invite all the ladies and men also, if you wish, for our Golden Jubilee celebration in 23. By then, I hope the pandemic will die down and it will be a physical gathering, not online like this. But even this is quite good. And actually, Dr. Padhe is a non-practicing scientist, completely immersed in scientific culture. She guided our organization and inspired many young girls to pursue career in science. So here is somebody who is discovering human scientists. So it is the discovery is related to finding human talent who will go ahead in science. She is still shining like a beacon to all young girls. Today she is attending this. I saw that she was attending our webinar also. Dr. Kamala Soni was contemporary of Drs. Kamal Randive and Shantu Gurnani. She was also born in a highly educated and cultured family where girls and boys were treated equally. With a university scholarship, her father encouraged her to take up research. She joined Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. Nobel laureate Dr. C.V. Raman opened Indian Institute of Science to girl students, and she was the first female student to be admitted. Mr. M. Srinivasan, a stern professor, an excellent professor, took her as a student in biochemistry. Then she went to Cambridge and worked under Nobel laureate Professor Hopkins. Her main field was biological oxidations and reductions. She proved that biological oxidation processes and reductions were identical, and this discovery formed the foundation of further research in this field. After returning to India, she joined as a head professor biochemistry in the newly started Department of Biochemistry at Institute of Science. There she helped many students to gain their PhD. She carried out several research projects, one of them being the study of Nira, palm good, and palm molasses. With such a good profile, even in the 20th century, she was the victim of petty departmental jealousies and denied rightful promotion to director's post for a long time, which she received in the end. Let it be, these things remain. What I want to stress here is the indomitable spirit of women scientists who, despite all odds, despite all physical hardships, went ahead and carved a niche for themselves, through which way all the girls now are going. So I'm so happy to see so many girls are there in chemistry, physics, computer science, everywhere the girls are there. And this is how these people paved the way for them. There are many such cases, but long and short of it, I can't keep on talking all myself. So Dr. Ravath, Dr. Niyati, and Professor Simi, we have to know what they are saying. We are very keen to know about their views in this. So once again, thanking Dr. Dhar, Dr. Sharma, and all other dignitaries of the university. I request my colleagues in the panel to put forth their views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing a successful journey of all the women scientists, many women scientists. It is really inspiring all of us which are working in this field. A warm good afternoon to one and all present. Navneeta Upadhyay, Assistant Department of Chemistry, SVV, and rapporteur of this session, speaker, Dr. Devan S Ravath, Professor, Department of Chemistry. Dr. Devan Ravath is well-experienced academician and researcher. Professor, Department. Dr. Ravath did his MSc in chemistry in 1993, and he did his PhD in medicinal chemistry from CDRI Lucknow. Dr. Ravath did postdoctoral fellowship twice, first in 2001 and second time in 2002 from USA. Dr. Ravath has vast experience in academic and administrative field. He is working as Dean Examination, University of Delhi. He also worked as coordinator for MTech programs, treasurer, chief election officer, and so many other administrative posts as University of Delhi, as chairman governing body, the College and Kirori Mall College, University of Delhi. He has been a member of many academic bodies and expert funding agencies. Their membership I'm mentioning here, member SERB Abhyas Expert Committee, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Member Inspire Fellowship, NBHF HOPE Committee, Department of Science and Technology, DST, Government of India. He has been a member, Subject Expert Committee, Women Scientist Scheme, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He also member of Project Advisory, International Cooperation Division, Department of Science and Technology. Now nominee, SEP program, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and also member Board of Studies and a member of a very academic council for various state and other universities. He has been member Institutional Advisory Board, Departmental Advisory Board, National Council of Education, Research and Training, that is NCERT. He has extensive research experience in the field of history and other branches. 150 publication, which includes key publication with Ville International, Royal Society and American Chemical Society. He has guided more than 25 students, 7 papers registered in his name. During his journey as intellectual academician and researcher, Sir has received many awards and honors. He is a fellow member of National Academy. A special appreciation certificate for explanatory services, University of Delhi. Sir received platinum. Sir has delivered Platinum Jubilee lectures, Indian Science Congress in 2020. Smriti Samman, Shiksha Sansthan, Nainital in 2020. Received Professor S.P. Hira Award, Indian Council of Chemists in 2006. Sir has also received Professor R.C. Shah Memorial Lecture Award in 2015-16. Sir has also worked as visiting professor in Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, Japan. He has Chinta Samman, VC Pratik Chinna Samman, Kumaon University, Nainital in 2011. Young Scientist Award in Indian Society of Chemists and Biologists in 2010. He has elected life member of National Academy of Sciences, Allahabad. Sir has received Professor D.P. Chakravarti Anniversary Award 2007. So many awards, many achievements, and as academician, as researcher. So it is our great pleasure that today Dr. Ravath is with us for sharing his own experience. Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you for your kind word of introduction. Thanks, Professor Dhar, Dr. Smita Sharma, for inviting me to this program. Because of my administrative responsibilities, it's very difficult to spare time because next week is our convocation. So I was busy in between, so I joined with little bit late actually. With this note, the previous speakers made my life a little bit easier because many of the names that has already been covered. Yes, but when we talk about women scientists across the globe, the participation or the percentage of the women working in the field of science and technology is really, really less. And that's true when the enrollment in the higher education, in any field of higher education, the women students are much more than the male ones. If I take this example from my own university, in chemistry department, we have 60 to 70% girls students. But when it comes to transform this percentage to the higher education or in science, this is a matter of great concern. Actually, we all need to think about it and why that is happening. It was there earlier, but after even 70 years of independence, we could not bridge that gap. So that this is what we need to think about. When we talk about the scientific temperament or the progress of the science in India, it is a long journey. And when we go back to Indus Valley civilization, our science was much more mature than what it is today now. In between, we lost the glory. Anything like irrigations, hydroelectric powers, the weapons, all those kind of scientific discoveries you can see trace during the Indus Valley civilization. Then comes to the Barrick Era. In Barrick Era, we have so many discoveries listed in the form of the textbooks and all that. And the best one is the veterinary medicine, and leprosy was treated in the Vedic era actually. But when we talk about the cataract surgery, it is also reported over there. But the role of the female scientists in all those discoveries are very, very rare, very, very rare. Since that is way back in 200, 300 BCs, but now today also we don't do well in this front. When we talk about trigonometry function line, sine, cosine, Aryabhatta was the person who talked about it, and role of Rayleigh theorem, which is known now, and that was discovered by Bhaskar. But when we come to the Indian scientists, people talk about the role of Anandibai Joshi, who was the first woman medico. She was married at the age of 9 and she gave a birth of a child at age of 40, and the child died. And her husband, who was about 15 years older than Anandibai, helped her to pursue the higher education, and she went to United States, obtained her medical degree, And after coming back, she could not continue because she died at the age of 22. So this is the struggle of a young lady who made a 22-year-old and made her name. Then name comes Janaki Amal, a botanist, as Professor Dhar also mentioned, and she was the first Director General of BSI. But I would like to talk about one of the most forgotten name in Indian science. That is Darshan Ranganathan. Darshan Ranganathan actually did her master's, graduation, post-graduation, and PhD degree from Delhi University Chemistry Department. She was a PhD student of great Professor T.R. Seshadri, who was FRS. And after PhD, she went to UK, and she was so passionate about her work, and she asked her mother to send a jackfruit to England so that she could isolate some of the alkaloids she was interested in. That talks about the passion of that lady in science way back in 1960s, late 50s. After coming back to India, she met another great chemist of that time, Professor Ranganathan, who was an assistant professor at IIT Kanpur. And they got married. And IIT Kanpur has a weird kind of rule at that time that both husband and wife cannot work in one institute. And she preferred to stay at Kanpur, and Kanpur does not have many other educational institutes. She published 16 Journal of American Chemical Society research papers. 16. Publishing one paper in JACS is itself a very, very daunting task. That's number one. Number two, she spent about whole of her career on fellowship. She was the one lady who was the fellow of all three academies, science academies of India, still does not have a permanent job. And the important thing is this is for the youngsters who should value these kind of scientific rigor and standards. She used to share the lab of her husband because he does not have any lab. And they did not, both are organic chemists by the way. Professor Ranganathan used to work on hardcore mechanistic studies, and she was more on medicinal chemistry, tough bioorganic chemistry. And there are none of their papers are together. They published independently. And she was the fellow of Third World Academy of Sciences. And at the age of 57 or 58, she got a final job. Unfortunately, she died because of a cancer. Next one is Kamala Sunoi. She was a physicist by training, and she's the first woman who got a PhD degree in any discipline of science, and she was refused admission to ISC Bangalore, being a female student. Dr. C.V. Raman identified her potential, took her in group, and she became the first Indian lady who got the PhD degree. And later on, she worked on enzyme called cytochrome C. And you all know cytochrome C importance in the biological system. Asima Chatterjee, many of the previous speakers also talked about. She worked on the phytochemistry. She is one of the finest organic chemists India has produced. And she was a Rajya Sabha member later on also after her retirement. And Kalpana Chawla, we all know, a girl from Punjab, landed up to the United States, and then she went to the space. So with this, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of you. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good luck and huge success to the program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us and for your motivating words. Now I introduce our next speaker, Dr. Niyati Bhattacharya, ma'am. Professor Niyati Bhattacharya did her MSc in chemistry and DIIT postgraduate diploma from IIT Kharagpur. She did her PhD in chemistry from University Department of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. Dr. Bhattacharya was a fellow and research associate of the Center of Advanced Studies in Chemistry at UD-CT, Mumbai. She was former senior scientist at the Bombay Textile Research Association, Mumbai, and professor and head Department of Fiber Science and Chemical Processing, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. She has more than 65 research papers in national and international journals and has guided many MSc and PhD students for their research work. Dr. Bhattacharya has received USDA and UNDP fellowship. She has authored a book, Natural Dyes for Textile and Their Eco-Friendly Applications. Dr. Bhattacharya has been associated with the Indian Women Scientists Association for over 3 decades. She has been actively involved with programs to promote and inculcate scientific temper to the society, especially to the children's and the women's. She was president of Indian Women's Science Association from 2001 to 2003 and was the member of Board of Trustees and Chairperson till 2019. We welcome you, ma'am, here and request you to address the gathering. Please, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Upadhyay. And it's a pleasure that I have come here today. Good afternoon to all. Respected Dr. Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor of Vaishnav Vidyapit Vishwavidyalaya, Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, Dr. Guru Prasad, Dr. Brijesh Parekh, Professor Sushma Yadav, Dr. Asmita Sharma, and the other learned speakers, Dr. Sunita Mahajan, Chairperson of this session. I am happy to be a part of this important webinar and take part in the discussions on the theme, Role of Women in Scientific Discoveries in India from Ancient to Modern Era. I thank Dr. Upinder sir for inviting me, especially in this significant meeting. Before I start telling something, I want to mention that we have heard some deliberations just now, and many of the speakers have very nicely explained the role of many women scientists and other women also. And I think maybe it will be a repetition as just now Dr. Raut also said. So still, I think I'll mention some of them, maybe something new from my talk come out. Now, in her introductory remark, Dr. Sunita Mahajan has expressed her ideas regarding the role of women in scientific discoveries and also highlighted the contributions and brief life sketches of the founder members of Indian Women Scientists Association. Women are integral part of any sphere of human lives and society. Swami Vivekananda said that a bird cannot fly with one wing. Similarly, a society cannot develop without the participation of women. Therefore, from ancient times in our country and all over the world, we see the role of women as daughter, sister, wife, mother, shouldering responsibilities at home as well as workplace. Coming to the role of women in scientific discoveries in India, if we go back in the history, we find there were women who contributed to scientific discoveries in astrology and mathematics and other subjects also, which were recognized in India in ancient era and even now also. A few questions comes in mind. The first one is, what contribution did women make in science? Second, what was women's role in scientific discoveries? Third, when did women become involved in science? And fourth is, what discoveries, scientific discoveries were made by women and what were their role? I think answer to these questions I prepared before. So has come out of this previous deliberations by different speakers on this day of this seminar. But still, I'll mention some of them which I have noted down or made some notes of it. Between 9th and 12th century AD, names of Khana, poet, and Lilavati were very prominent among women for the discoveries in astrology and mathematics. We have heard from our previous speakers about Lilavati. Now, Dr. Mahajan, about Lilavati also, we have just heard our Professor Dhar and Professor Shushma, they have also told, and so Sunita Mahajan also said. But here I would like to mention the contribution of Khana. She was an Indian poet and legendary astrologer who composed many lyrical verses known as Khanar Bachan. Literally means Khana's verse. She had to face some pandits, that is learned men, in Vikramaditya's court and defeated them with her acumen, wit, and factual soundness. Khana's two main areas of findings or contributions, I should say, are still being used in Bengal, almanac, and in agriculture. Khana hailed from Bengal in 24 Parganas district in West Bengal. From her calculations in astrology, she could predict about weather and day-to-day guidance in life. There are 35 Khanar Bachan in astrology. Now, coming to the agricultural contribution, agricultural verses given by Khana mainly related to agricultural customs and annual husbandry, agricultural work and farming, knowledge about day, month, and weather, and advice for caring of crops. So Khana's contribution in agriculture is unforgettable and is widely accepted to the farmers even now. At the advent of Mughal period, 14th century AD, in India, there was tremendous setback in the society and practically all development work in the society, especially for women, were completely stopped and women were forced to stay at home only. No education, no social interaction. Free movement of women was banned and they have to go behind Padda. All sorts of regressive practices like child marriage, sati, that is demolition of a widow on the pyre of her dead husband, particularly Hindus in Bengal and of course other parts in India also. It was really a dark age of Indian history, though some gifted women like Ahilyabai and Rani of Jhansi gleamed here and there like flashes of lightning in the clouded firmament of Indian womanhood. At the advent of British rule in India, 19th century saw the beginning of a long-drawn struggle for the eradication of social evils. On the other hand, British rule again imposed their unfair behavior towards Indians, men and women, depriving of their fundamental rights, etc. Thousands of women, irrespective of their caste or creed, age or status, came out of their cloistered lives from all parts of India and fought for the country's freedom. However, early 19th century, that is middle of 1800 AD, education in general and in science started its momentum among women of India, especially along the coastal region of the country. I have tried to identify names of some illustrious women of India and tell about their achievements in spite of non-conducive situation in their personal life as well as workplace. About Anandibai Joshi also, my previous speakers have said, but I'll just add up a little bit. So Anandibai Gopalrao Joshi, born in 1865. Joshi was the first Indian woman physician and first woman to have graduated with a 2-year degree in Western medicine in the US. Actually, her personal life led her to take up medicine. She was married at the age of 9 to a widower who was 20 years older to her. At the age of 14, she gave birth to a son who died soon after due to lack of enough medicinal facilities we can't think of now. Witnessing the death of a newborn, Anandibai resolved to study medicine. and become a physician. Her husband encouraged her to study medicine abroad. She studied at the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania in 1886. This was the first women's medical program worldwide. Such was the courage and determination of Anandibai Joshi. Second woman physician alongside Anandibai Joshi was Kadambini Ganguly. She was one of the first female doctors who practiced with a degree of modern medicine. Born in a Brahma Samaj family in Bengal, Kadambini, along with another lady, Chandramukhi Basu, graduated from Bethune College, Calcutta. Kadambini was the first woman to get admission to Calcutta Medical College in 1884 and established herself as a successful medical practitioner in India. She was the first medical doctor in South Asia to get 3 bachelor's degrees in medicine. She used to go to villages for giving treatment to the poor. It is indeed a remarkable effort and contribution of Kadambini as an independent physician who gave a new direction for women's education, employment, and self-reliance throughout Asia. Kadambini was married 11 years before joining Calcutta Medical College in 1883. Being mother of 8 children, she had to struggle to establish herself, although her husband and father played an important role and extended their helping hand to her. She died in October 7, 1923 at the age of 62 years only, but till her last breath, she attended the patients and did not turn out anywhere. So this is something great, really. Now let us talk about another woman scientist, not the medical practitioner of repute, and her contribution in scientific discoveries way back from early 20th to early 21st century. My previous speakers also mentioned about her name. She is none other than Dr. Asima Chatterjee. She was born in 23 September 1917 in Calcutta, British India, in a middle-class learned family. Asima became the first woman to be conferred the Doctor of Science DSc by an Indian university for her research on the chemistry of plant products and synthetic organic chemistry in 1944 from Calcutta University. In 1975, she was conferred Padma Bhushan and became the first female scientist to be elected as the General President of the Indian Science Congress. At the time when she was born, education for girl child was not encouraged at all. She was the eldest child and had a younger brother and had to take care of some responsibilities in the house also. Her father was a botanist and thus she developed interest in plants. Her main interest was in medicinal properties of plants. While doing research in the University College of Science, Calcutta, she had to do a lot of struggle. There was no fund for research. She used to spend her own money for analysis of the samples outside India. Even for chemicals and reagents, there was no fund. But she did not yield to any of these difficulties and came out with her discovery in anti-epileptic drug Ayush 56 from plant Marsilea minuta. Significant contribution also is in developing anti-malarial drug from Alstonia solaris and other plants. She also discovered anticonvulsive and chemotherapy drug commercially from various plant sources. There are many other research in her credit in the chemical investigation of alkaloids and organic chemistry, which is required for all medicinal compounds and all. So Asima Chatterjee is the recipient of many awards like Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, C.V. Raman Award, P.C. Rai Award. She died at the age of 89 years in 2006. I am lucky that I have seen her in IIT Kharagpur once she came to give a seminar there. In the history of India's scientific discoveries, there were, and even now, many women scientists whose contribution were not recognized or not documented properly. About a year back, a report was published on a woman scientist named Viva Choudhury. She was born in 1913 in Calcutta. She did her MSc from University College of Science, Calcutta. She was the first Indian woman to earn a PhD in physics in 1949. Her research was on extensive air showers associated with penetrating particles. Being a physicist, worked on particle physics and cosmic rays. Her research in cosmic rays brought her very close to a Nobel Prize, but alas, it did not happen. Her discoveries in new particles are meson, pi meson, and muon. Despite being a pioneer in the study of cosmic rays in India, Viva Choudhury practically remained unknown. Viva was selected by Dr. Homi J. Bhabha and joined TIFR in 1949. She was the first female scientist to be hired in this prestigious institute. However, she left TIFR and came back to Calcutta and joined BE College. After some time, she joined Physical Research Laboratory in Ahmedabad. She worked in Kolar gold fields in India and contributed enormously to the setting up of a laboratory and experiments. She was to set up a plant in Mount Abu also, but she took voluntary retirement. She was a visiting scientist at the Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics, University of Calcutta, and Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science till her death in 1991. One very important thing I want to tell in this August audience, that on 28th May 2021, it came in the newspaper actually, Times of India, the International Astronomical Union, IAU, named a yellow-white dwarf star as Viva in 2018 and by Government of India in 2020. The name of Dr. Muthaya Vanita is very well known for her extensive research in the field of nutrition. She is really a very good scientist and did lot of work. Vanita was born in 1934 and did her MSc PhD biochemistry from Bombay University. She has several awards to her credit for her outstanding research contributions, namely understanding of the etiology of vitamin B deficiencies, development of tests for assessing vitamin nutrition status in the community, and understanding the biochemical basis of clinical manifestations of B vitamin deficiencies. Dr. Vanita discovered new enzyme for carotenoid metabolism in euglin and also developed tests for early detection of vitamin B12 deficiency. She was the director of the National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad and devoted her life for uplifting and improving the nutritional status of people, and in particular, the health of tribals in several districts of Andhra Pradesh. In the post-retirement period also, she discovered and identified several plant-based materials. For example, leaves of drumstick plant, millets, grains, which were neglected by many of us due to our ignorance. She is now in her 80s, but still very active in her pursuit of research and implementation. Last year, 2021, Dr. Muthaya Vanita received Living Legend Award by the International Union of Nutritional Science for her role in the advancement of nutrition at national, regional, and global level through professional activities such as research, teaching, and services. Finally, I would like to express my respect in presence of this August gathering about the physicist Dr. Sudha S. Padde from Bombay, Mumbai, who is one of the founder members of Indian Women Scientists Association. Dr. Mahajan has just told, but as I wanted to say a bit, she is not a practicing physicist and scientist now. Of course, she taught in her first, after doing her PhD, she was teaching and doing research in Nirmala Niketan and UBCT. But afterwards, she left and she started to do her own way. A hardcore scientist in her thought and work to harness science, developing and inculcating scientific temper among hundreds of women in science throughout the country. Even now, she is continuing her vision for the next generation of women. Indian Women Scientists Association campus, along with a working women hostel, is a brainchild for nurturing science with various green projects implemented since 1985 onwards. We humbly express our gratitude and respect for her significant role for the cause of science. Lastly, I want to, as our previous speakers also given two names of the books, which I also got it. One is Women Scientists in India by Anjana Chattopadhyay, that is the lives, struggles and achievements, published by National Book Trust India. Second book, just now one speaker mentioned, Lilavati's Daughters, the Women Scientists of India, editor Rohini Gorbole and Ram Ramaswamy. Biography of Women in Science, and this was published by Indian Academy of Sciences and in 2008. Now the third book, I think this is a very important one, A Jewel on Earth, Viva Choudhury by Rajinder Singh and Suprapar C. Roy, released by German publishing home Shaker Warlow just recently. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say something about women scientists, although I am just a drop of water I can add to this thing, but really I feel these three books can be recommended in the colleges, you can buy in your library. I'm also thinking of buying this thing in our ISA library, and this will really give a lot of inspiration for the young generation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, ma'am, for throwing light on the women's contribution towards this society. Ma'am, you have taken the examples from of great Indian women who contributed in the various fields of science. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Professor Simi Farhat Basir. Professor Simi Farhat Basir, ma'am, is a renowned academician and researcher working in Department of Biosciences, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. She is an active administrator who has headed the Department of Biosciences and presently working as Dean, Faculty of Natural Science. She has more than 35 years of illustrious career. She taught advanced courses like enzymology, immunology, biochemistry, and clinical biochemistry at undergraduate and postgraduate level. Professor Basir had been counselor for Indira Gandhi National Open University, where she delivered practical training session and counseling for science degree program of distance learning mode. She is also an active member of the Science School Board at IGNOU. In addition to science, she is popular in uplifting the society and the nation too, for which she was awarded Rashtriya Ekta Award in 1999. Professor Basir has participated constructively at various selection committees at Union Public Service Commission, Government of India. She has rendered her services as expert in various committees to UGC and other universities also, like Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla, University of Kashmir, Srinagar, Jamia Millia Islamia, Aligarh Muslim University, and IGNOU. She has organized and contributed in various conferences, workshops, refresher courses, and training programs at national and international levels. She has supervised more than 30 students for their PhD degree and completed various research projects. She has a long list of research publications and book chapters. Professor Simi has held the position of Dean, Student Welfare at Jamia Millia Islamia and worked very successfully for the welfare of students. At present, she is the nodal person for Government of India pilot project on gender advancement for transforming institution in Jamia Millia Islamia. Madam, we are very happy that today you are with us. So please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here in this function today. And I would like to begin by my greetings to Dr. Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Professor Shushma Yadav, Chief Guest in this webinar, Professor Sunita Mahajan, the Chairperson of this session, Dr. Asmita Sharma, Coordinator of today's webinar, and distinguished plenary speakers, esteemed panelists, and all the participants. A very good day to all and greetings from Jamia Millia Islamia, which is a central university and which has been assessed as A++ recently by NAC. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this global women's breakfast event, the theme of which is empowering diversity in science. Today's webinar on the role of women in scientific discoveries in India, from ancient to modern era, comes from the most opportune time when women are seeking and getting educated in sciences. Now, before I go to the role of women in science in India, I would like to say a few words about empowering diversity in science, since science is the best medium for healthy contribution towards mankind. The purpose of science is to bring happiness to the society, and society cannot be happy unless there is a greater sense of equity and justice for well-being of the entire humanity, for which we need to bring diversity in science. And this diversity always has been proven to lead to a better problem solving, expands the talent pool, and is extremely important for the long-term sustainable growth of any society. The aim of empowering diversity in science is designed to be a catalyst for change, so that change comes quickly towards greater diversity in science, and also to showcase talent and impact of early career scientists. Now, there's always an impact of diversity on innovation too, because in addition to strategic leadership, one must of course consider the innovation process itself, which typically involves ideators and entrepreneurs from varied backgrounds who work in smaller teams, but then they are driven by strategic goals. And when there is diversity of thought and approach, these are naturally assumed to be beneficial to the innovation process, which by its very nature thrives on creative tension and alternating viewpoints. So the more diversity we have, the better results we would get. And the factors to consider here would include gender and cultural factors, ethnic factors, where a person is coming from, geographic location, and also disciplinary diversity. Studies on gender diversity have modeled the performance impact of uniform or skewed or tilted and balanced groups. And these are often assessed using the Blau index. Now, although this is not specifically addressing innovative potential, there is a very big overwhelming evidence that gender heterogeneous teams produce higher quality technical and scientific outputs. So wherever we have men and women working together with equal vigor and putting together equal amounts of effort, we do get better quality outputs. And moreover, when we have women and girls making 50% of an economy in a country, in any country, in a country like India, we must support them from the engagement at schools, beginning from the engagement at schools, universities, and corporate networks, and make sure that their participation is supported and empowered. We had seen a lot of previous speakers talking about help from husband and support from parents. So this is where we are sure to pitch in. We should pitch in, that we make sure that their participation is supported and also empowered. Healthcare, finance, technology, clean tech, all of these, they rely on harnessing the best skills and talent. And therefore, we must get more and more women to participate and play different roles across industries. Diversity, such type of diversity would bring innate characteristics and attributes, fresh perspectives from different views, from different places, different sexes, and talent and creativity. So in a world that is so intricately connected, every small ripple can cause a big wave. So therefore, diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of culture is also very, very important. Diversity is beneficial for teams precisely because we react differently to people who are different from us. Jo hamare jaise nahi hai, we react differently to them. So if the end goal is excellence, then diversity should be an essential ingredient. And science imposes the discipline of having to find the best ideas among varied teams of people, which gives the scientists and engineers the opportunity to be pioneers in structural change. And there have been a lot of studies around the world that suggest that published outputs from diverse teams are cited more frequently. There are more citations in terms of how many other papers are citing them. They are cited more frequently than from those with less heterogeneity. And the notion that ethnic diversity reflects idea diversity has been advanced here. It has been advanced and put forward to be thought of. It has also been suggested that management of teams with high cultural diversity may warrant special considerations within organizations also. So cultural diversity and higher innovation performances are very intriguing and readily relatable also. The importance of team diversity to the growth of science, technology, and innovation has been recognized and is a subject of extensive research by various state-level think tanks, including the United States National Research Council. And we have numerous studies that have systematically assessed the impact of diverse elements, such as demographic and task-related diversities, functional background diversity, and also cultural diversity. Now, with all the diversity in mind, we should think of another diversity, which is diversity in technology. So technology has advanced to an extent which has betterly helped researchers to diversify the different aspects of science. So we have this digital era, which has much influenced and changed the diversity of science. It has enhanced the scope for reaching the goals, which in a quicker way, in a better way, which in fact will bring vibrancy to both the study and the research field. So keeping that diversity, these different sorts of diversity in mind, which includes the gender diversity in a large manner, we have to have a number of challenges and opportunities. We have to have a number of challenges to think about, and we have to find out the opportunities by which we can face these challenges and work towards them. So what I find is that the greatest challenge in empowering diversity in science is how we can improve the situation in a much faster way, whichever situation we can talk about. It is science, we improve the science situation. It is cultural, we improve the cultural situation. How do we do that? The second challenge is how the number of women in high percentage in industries and academia could be increased. Because as Dr. Guru Prasad had talked about, that women are much more, there are more girls in biological sciences, and while we go up in the higher studies, their numbers decrease. And when we get to the part where they are actually employed at some place, their number decreases still. So we call it the leaky pipeline. This has got to be somehow addressed. And the number of women has to be increased in industries and academia. How can we do that? And Gati is one, okay, I'll talk about that in a bit. And to increase the number of women, we need to be proactive. We need to, and we need to take it as our responsibility and come forward and move forward towards this and do our best to mentor more and more girls and women at all levels, so that we just do not give them a level playing field, but we give, if a section is deprived, we give them a bit more. And then we think that now it is a level playing field, because the deprived section is given a bit more. And if you remember the story of the stork and the fox eating out of a plate, both were eating out of a plate. The fox could eat all, the stork could not. They were given a plate. They were given supposedly a level playing field, but it was not a level playing field. So we need to motivate the girls to pursue a career in science, even at middle school, because that would give them a big difference. We can motivate other women through one-to-one mentoring also, to build their self-esteem, come forward and study and go forth. Also, all of us need to be passionate. We need to show our passion about profession. We need to show our passion for strategies to overcome hurdles or any kind of hardships that may come in the way, be it our own way or be it in our companion's way, in anybody who's working next to me on the next table. We should be confident and not be worrying about the mistakes that we make. We should be learning from those mistakes. Also, it would be so good not to criticize or judge anybody while facing challenges. So we can reach out to people by doing this, and we can impact them. And I tell you, there are many opportunities out there in science, which encourage women to pursue the career in science. There are many scholarship programs for women in different age limits. And right now, the government of India has taken upon themselves a pilot project, which is known as GATI, that is Gender Advancement in Transforming Institutions. Because the government of India is worrying about the fact that 50% of our population which could contribute towards the economy, which could contribute towards the science, is not doing it to their full potential. So we are actually, and Jamia Millia Islamia is one of the institutions in this pilot project, which is working towards that. So we are trying to bring up girls and women up in science in the STEM fields, which are science, technology, engineering, maths, and medicine. So if there are teams that are composed from members of diverse backgrounds, they may approach problems from different perspectives, and they may have different tolerance for risk taking also, and they could make a creative and innovative team. Now, if I may, I would talk a bit about the role of women in science discoveries, because we in India have a very rich history which is replete with examples of several great scientists who have brought a lot of, we have a lot of scientists in India who have brought pride to our country, our nation. And many among them have been women scientists who have revolutionized the Indian scientific scene with their groundbreaking contributions to mankind. We have had a lot of earlier speakers who talked about them. They lived their lives, the lives of these women scientists serve as a role model for all the young women who aspire to make a mark in the field of science and technology. And let me tell you, girls, that there should not be anybody to stop you. This is your life. You have to take command and you have to move forward. And you will find that once you have that commitment, once you have that reserve in your mind, there will be lots of people around you to just hold your hand for a bit and take you forward. The previous speaker talked about Swami Vivekananda talking about the two wings of a bird, and then I would go forward a bit here, that the two wings of the bird and the social progress just like the two wings of the bird helps the bird to fly, the social progress of a country depends upon the development of the social condition of the women also, just not the men. And this observation of Swami Vivekananda was very prophetic at that time. And it is equally relevant today as well. Because during the unfavorable socioeconomic times, the women's education in India has evolved and its effect is manifest in the overall progress of education in India. Because we feel that an educated mother is always the foremost motivation for the world, for the child's educational uplift. And among the various professional spheres and the different realms of general education, women seem to miss out more and more in the field of science and technology, maybe because they have to put in longer hours in work. So sometimes women are not even perceived as being capable of intellectual attainment in maths or science in India, or at least not in academia. Instead, they make up a large percentage of university prize winners in science. We are very lucky that we do not have our Larry Summers telling us that women can't do science, maths, or physics, because our government tells us that yes, women can do science, maths, or physics. So Lawrence Summers, he's a former US Secretary of the Treasury Secretary of US. Lawrence Summers is the former US Treasury Secretary, and he's also the Harvard president. And he put forth some ideas, his own ideas, why so few women hold elite professorships in science and maths. And he said, and I quote, one possibility is that women don't want to devote the same kind of time to demanding jobs as male colleagues. He said that one possibility is that women don't want to devote the same kind of time to demanding jobs as male colleagues. Or it could be natural aptitude. Men may just be more genetically predisposed to be geniuses. Now, how laughable it can be. Men may just be genetically more predisposed to be geniuses. Well, this thought was, it drew a lot of flack at that time, and he had to face consequences. But thankfully, we don't appear to be inundated by women who work in science. And this gives us hope. And the plight of women in our region may change rapidly, because When India gained independence way back in 1947, the enrollment of women in universities was very low. But between 1950 and the next, from 1950 to the next 50 years at least, the percentage of women enrolled in the universities climbed up from 10% to 40%. Even though the representation of women scientists in academy, membership, fellowship is not that high, the government is taking new initiatives for recognizing young scientists, and their share is increasing significantly. Excellence in science is a concept that India has been familiar with since ancient times, and women had been a very active part in this quest for knowledge. And now I would like to address the tremendous achievements of Indian women in science throughout India. Pre-independence, a number of speakers before me had talked about Dr. Anandibai Gopal Rao Joshi, who was the first Indian woman to study medicine abroad. Dr. Kadambini Ganguly, who was a female physician also, one of the two female physicians in South Asia and British Empire. And she faced severe biases wherever she went. But she did come back and she started practicing independent medicine. And she was also politically active. So active that she assisted the fight against the British Raj, organized satyagraha gatherings and followed satyagraha gatherings after the partition of Bengal. And she worked ceaselessly to ameliorate the situation. Then we had Dr. Annamani, who was a physicist and a meteorologist, who became the Deputy Director General of the Indian Meteorological Department in Pune, where she conducted research and published various publications. And her work, she organized a number of workshops to talk about wind speed and solar energy instruments. And she also designed an ozone measurement device, which was so, that was so used everywhere around the world when there was ozone depletion problem that came up. Dr. Rajeshwari Chatterjee was the first woman scientist to pioneer the field of microwave engineering, antenna engineering in India. She got her PhD in US just after World War II, and then she returned to India. She served as a faculty at the Indian Institute of Science at Bengaluru. And she also then worked with the Indian Association for Women Studies. Post-independence, too, there were women from modern India who are very well known for their contributions in science and technology and who lived and worked in contemporary India. ISRO and INSA have women scientists like Dr. Ritu Karidhar and Dr. Chandrama Saha, who have taken on leadership responsibilities also. And then we have Dr. Indira Hinduja, who is the first Indian woman who delivered a test tube baby in 1986. And she had pioneered the gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFT technique, gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFT technique, which resulted in the birth of India's first GIFT baby in 1988. So she was previously an Indian gynecologist and obstetrician and also an infertility expert who stayed in Mumbai. But now she's also now credited with pioneering work for oocyte donation, egg donation techniques, so that people for menopausal or premenopausal women or premature ovarian failure patients can also have the joy of having a baby. Then we had a very successful oceanographer, Dr. Aditi Panth, and she was an Indian woman who visited Antarctica in 1983 as part of the Indian expedition to study geology and oceanography. And she was part of the third Indian expedition to Antarctica, and she was honored for her outstanding contribution to the Indian Antarctic program. Then, of course, we know who doesn't know Kalpana Chawla. Of course, she was there, and very sadly she passed away. But then she passed on to the next world while doing her work, which she loved so much. Dr. Tessie Thomas and Dr. Ritu Karidhar has already been talked about as a rocket and the missile woman of India. And Dr. Muthaya Vanita is also one of the contemporary project directors of Chandrayaan. She won the Best Woman Scientist Award also. Dr. Gagandeep Kang is the chairperson of the World Health Organization to develop practical approaches to support public health. Then is the Dr. Mangala Mani is known as the polar woman of ISRO, because she's the first woman in the ISRO to spend more than a year in the icy land of Antarctic. And what is so different about this is that before going to this, before being selected for the mission, she had never ever seen a snowfall. And then she went ahead and spent 403 days in the continent of Antarctica, and she operated and maintained the ISRO's ground station from there. We have Chandrima Saha, a biologist and president of the Indian INSA, where she had assumed office in 2021, and this INSA got its first woman president after 85 years of its existence. She specializes in cell biology, and she has done a lot of papers. She has done a lot of research papers, published lots of research papers, got the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, and also the special award for 50th anniversary of DNA double helix discovery, which is a different story, of course. When DNA double helix discovery is attributed to Watson and Crick, but was actually found out by a lady, Franklin. Then we have got Jyotirmai Dash, a professor in the organic chemistry in Indian Association for Cultivation of Science in Jadavpur. She works in the field of chemical sciences, and she's the first Odia woman to win a prestigious award of Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar. So we have got a lot of women. Rohini Godbole was also talked about here, physicist and an academic who specialized in elementary particle physics. And currently she's professor at IISc Bengaluru. She worked, her work regards hadronic structure of high energy photons. And she is also a much sought after communicator of science. Then lastly, I would talk about a very young researcher. She's Dr. Bushra Aqil. She is an associate professor at IIT Kanpur, and in 2020, the year 2020 saw that she got her Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award also. She's a very good researcher and a very good, so her path-breaking research is on the resistance to androgen deprivation therapy, which is the mainstay for prostate cancer patients. But then she showed, so we have a medicine that is regularly given to prostate cancer patients, but then she showed that this anti-androgen drugs that are used to treat the advanced stage of prostate cancer are actually detrimental for the patient in the long run. So for that, she got the, so we have got a lot of women who are working right now and working with a gusto and a momentum that is going to take them and us to places. So this is our Nari Shakti, which has eliminated the name of the country, not only inside the country, but also internationally at an international level. And this should and is inspiring generations to come, thus enabling them to aspire and tread similarly on the path to success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us with your worthy words. Now, I request our chairperson, Dr. Sunita Mahajan, for concluding remarks for this plenary session.
Yes. Thank you, Supriya. And I have been listening to all these eminent professors speak about women and women in science and the role, and it is really very vast. And one thing I have learned is it is very difficult to shorten it. So what I will say that all of you must have remembered what they are talking. So instead of repeating, I'll just give the gist of it as what was started by Vice Chancellor has culminated into Professor Simi Basir in giving the diversity and the techniques of it, and how the women have encouraged, and how the youngest women scientists are also going on very fast. Dr. Devan Ravath, he's a chemistry professor, so he talked about participation of modern women in science, and he posed a question that now girls are more than boys in the colleges, that I have also noticed. How is that in the industry? The quantity of girls keep on dwindling. That mainly will be answered by the sociologists. Then it's because I know that after marriage, things do change. And before marriage, the freedom that the girls have, somehow most of them don't get it after marriage. There are many other reasons. Without going into that, let us see. He talked about Anandibai Joshi, Dr. Janaki Ammal, Dr. Ranganathan. And if you find, all of them were fighters. They were totally dedicated. And even my colleagues at IVSA, my seniors, they were totally dedicated to science, and they must follow and they must make the science contribute something. So it's not sufficient for women just to become intelligent. They must prove that they are intelligent and they are capable. And that is what they have been doing now. And by now, I think it is well established fact that girls are very dedicated, they are very sincere, and I would like to say that they are very logical. So you can't say that men are at their DNA, or they are more geniuses in men. There is a small something I would like to say, that men are left free to do their research for a long time. Even at home, you will find if the boys are interested in doing something, mother allows him to do. At the same time, if the girl is interested in doing the same thing, her dedication is broken. Chalo, pani le lo, khane ka time ho gaya. It is nothing against it, but this is the situation. But all those who have conquered this, they are really great, and I bow my heads to that. And I'm really very thankful to Vice Chancellor and everybody of this university that you thought of bringing out this, so that which gave us the chance to show the woman power, or Nari Shakti, as Madam was saying. So it's really good and makes me happy. When I studied, there was only 2 girls in BSc Physics, and now if you find that the girls are much more than boys, and the society has started accepting that. That is what we have seen from Kalpana Chawla and everybody else, that we are accepted. And I hope the next generation, this will not be there, and there will be equal number of geniuses, because the DNA is the same, the brains are the same, only how much you concentrate on it, that's there. So thank you very much. I think I'll sum it up very fast, because we have all been listening and now it is slightly late. So excuse me for not going into longer and longer discussions. But the main gist is that role of women has changed. Instead of being support structures, to becoming independent and one who is capable of guiding everybody else. So they are the beacons, we can say, in the scientific discoveries. Thank you very much. Thank you, the university people, once again, so for giving us the chance. And this is from Dr. Niyati and myself, from both of us. We are thanking you both. Bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I hand over the valedictory session to Ms. Divya Rana Tomar.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good evening to all the dignitaries, guests, colleagues, and delegates. I, Divya Rana Tomar, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, SVV Indore, feel privileged to welcome you all to the valedictory session of the international webinar on behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya on the theme, the role of women in scientific discoveries in India from ancient to modern era, in collaboration with Association of Chemistry Teachers, IUPAC, and Royal Society of Chemistry. I feel privileged to introduce to this gathering Dr. Santosh Dhar, Dean, FDSR, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Dr. Santosh Dhar is Dean Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research at Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. She has been engaged in teaching, research, corporate training, and consultancy for last 40 years. She has widely published her work and has more than 356 publications to her credit. Her earlier assignments have been Professor, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Management, Indore, Professor, MET Business School, MET University, Greater Noida, Professor, Institute of Management and Dean Research, JK Lakshmipat University, Jaipur, Senior Professor, HR, Jaipuria Institute of Management, Jaipur, Professor and Chairperson, HR area, Institute of Management, Nirma University, Ahmedabad, and guest faculty at IIM Kolkata and MICA Ahmedabad. Many research scholars have been awarded PhD degree under her supervision. She has designed and conducted management development programs for the executive of several business houses such as Grasin Industries, JK Tires, Bridgestones, Hindustan Motors, ONGC, GAIL, to name few. She has been on a panel of reviewer of Oxford University Press and Tata McGraw-Hill. She was managing editor of Prestige Journal of Management and Research and Prestige Research Abstract. She has been chairperson of Indian Society of Training and Development, Indore and Jaipur chapter, and was on the editorial board of Indian Journal of Training and Development. She has been presented papers in several national and international conferences, seminars, and had the opportunity to visit Kathmandu, Maldives, Thailand, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, South Korea, Dubai, Myanmar, Poland, United States in connection with various professional and academic assignments. Dr. Dhar had coordinated the implementation of project on the empowerment of women through enterprise in North India 2000 to 2002, which was funded by Canadian International Development Agency. She has completed the research project on problem of women trainers in India and quality of work life as a determinant of mental health in pharmaceutical industry. She has also been a principal investigator for Asian Development Bank funded and Rajasthan government investigators for sponsored IUIDP consultancy project on capacity building of ULBs of different towns of Rajasthan. She has twice been chairperson of Indian Society for Training and Development, Jaipur and Indore chapter, and chairperson of the Best Paper Award for the Indian Society of Training and Development, New Delhi. Dr. Dhar was conferred National Fellowship for her contribution to HR by Indian Society for Training and Development 2006-2007. She is a life member of Indian Society for Training and Development, National Human Resource Development Network, and Indian Society for the Technical Education. Now I request Dr. Santosh Dhar, Dean FDSR, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, and also concluding remarks. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Divya. The objective of today's deliberations was to give a platform to the academicians and scientists to share their views about the role of women in scientific discoveries in India. We had a galaxy of speakers who shared their insights on the topic and enriched all of us. Since time immemorial, India is famed for its rich contribution to the field of science and mathematics. In fact, the concept of zero as a number and decimal system were inventions of brilliant mathematicians of ancient India. India's rich history is replete with examples of several great scientists. And among them, there are several women scientists who have contributed significantly to various disciplines of science. It wasn't easy for them. It was not a smooth sailing. Their lives are role models and inspire girls who have passion for pursuing science and technologies. These inventions have forever altered the world, but as history shows, women's achievements are often overlooked. According to the United Nations, women constitute merely 14% of the total 280,000 scientists, engineers, technologists, and research development institutions in India. While in the research programs, women account for a third of the PhD awardees. Women have historically subordinate place in science. It was not a coincidence and was not due to any lack of merit on their part. Female researchers in STEM field are underrepresented across the world, and one reason for this gap could be how other scientists perceive their work. Particularly, the gender of an author in a scientific field, as well as the topic of their research, could impact evaluation of the scientific quality of their research. Specifically, more feminine stereotype traits, empathy, communication, might be associated with success in professions such as human resources and social work, whereas more masculine stereotype traits, objectivity, ability to organize, are expected to align with professions in science and leadership roles. This gender role incongruity will affect
assessment of scientific quality, and interest in collaboration. Presenting otherwise identical scientific research, they test the hypothesis that men's scholarly work is associated with higher scientific quality and women's work in the same field, and that men are more attractive for scholarly exchange than women this is what has been happening in the past 2 decades. During the past 2 decades, women have begun to win more awards for their scientific achievements compared to men. They win more service and teaching awards and fewer prestigious scholarly awards than would be expected based on their representation in the nomination pool. It was reported that in the disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and medicine, between 1991 and 2010, awards to women increased by 78.5% during these 2 decades. Between the years of 2000 and 2010, men were more than 8 times more likely than women to win a scholarly award and almost 3 times more likely to win a Young Investigator Award. Interestingly, this disparity grew instead of diminishing between the years 2001 and 2010. Women won 10% of research-based awards while winning 32.2% of service awards and 37.1% of teaching awards. The fact that women are honored twice, as often for service as for scholarship, may arise from the tacit assumption that scientists and rigorous scholars are men and that women are incongruent with scientists' role. Women are producers, consumers, and innovators. They are resourceful economic agents, proving every day that they can succeed, often in the face of persistent gender barriers. A day without a woman means fewer women working to keep the production and service industry up, fewer women taking care of children, the elderly, and spending money on goods and that drive our economy. Simply put, when women don't work, the economy and society don't either. When you invest in girls and women, it creates a powerful ripple effect. When women get the credit they deserve, they can become role models to inspire the next generation of girls. The list of renowned scientists is very long, and most of them have been referred to in the deliberation. These women scientists made their presence felt in spite of existing gender norms. Gender stereotypes in the workplace mean that women are expected to be more helpful, and these women scientists have proved it with their contributions in the field of science and technology, as these innovations have forever altered the world. These scientists have become role models for the women fraternity. While remembering them in today's deliberations, it has given us enough food for thought, especially programs like Gati, the government initiatives to be supportive to women who want to pursue science and technology. But programs are there, but the passion has to be in women's belly. With these words, thank you so much. Over to Divya.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for the great words. Now, the gratitude is the fairest blossom which brings springs from the soul. So may I now request Dr. Ashutosh Shukla, HOD Department of Chemistry, SVIS, to propose words of thanks.
Thanks, Divya. I stand before you with a deep sense of honor and privilege to express my words of thanks on behalf of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya on this occasion. First of all, I deem it to a great honor to propose words of thanks. First of all, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to the Honorable Chief Guest for her gracious presence and inspiring words and valuable suggestions. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude for highlighting the contributions of women scientists, innovations, etc. in the field of science and other fields by the speakers. I am also very thankful to our Vice Chancellor, sir, for their remarkable presence and constant and continuous motivation. I would indeed be failing in my duty if I do not express my gratitude to Association of Chemistry Teachers. I am highly thankful to Dean Madam, my own director, Dr. K. Guru Prasad, who is the director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Science, and also other directors of constituent institutions of Sri Vaishnav Vishwavidyalaya. The other coordinators and head of the departments of the university, for and my dear past participants for sparing a valuable time. Last but not least, I am thankful to my departmental colleagues and technical team for wholehearted support to make this program a successful one. Thanks again. Really, it was a happy learning. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. May I now request the gathering to raise for the national anthem and the technical team to play the national anthem.
Thank you very much, all the panelists, for sparing your valuable time. It was a great experience to be with you and listen to you. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. It was a lovely evening for me. It's such a
great learning for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Niyati madam. Thank you.
All the participants are requested to fill the feedback forms.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Niyati madam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed, because after a long time I was talking, because I always say no, I don't want. But our Dr. Asmita, she never left me. She said no, you have to join. I said, anyway, but I learned a lot of things. I really learned. And probably my husband once went to this indoor chemistry department. He was in BARC. So long back, of course. So I still wish, although I am quite old, but I still feel I should visit the chemistry department of Indore University.
Dr. Asmita, could we have the recording?
Yeah, yes, madam. I have recording. Yes.
Okay. Because people are asking me.
Yes.
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
And
Thank
thanks
you,
for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
All the Vice Chancellor is so nice. He's
ma'am.
for the whole session. This is really. So that is the love for science.
He is very kind. He is very kind enough. He is very kind.
Yes.
उन्हीं के सपोर्ट से मैम हम कर पाते हैं कुछ.
वही तो ना. That is really. Yes. I'm really surprised.
The whole function was very good.